BYU gets a massive upset win in Dallas, and SMU is being relegated to the MAC. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday night, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Tonight, we cover one thing and one thing only. The BYU Cougars, 1-0 against the ACC this season. The expansion Big 12, 1-0 against the Atlantic Coast Conference as well after an 18-15 win for Kalani Sitake's team. If you hit subscribe, I could keep my job. The first thing here, predicting a BYU win was pretty easy for me and pretty easy for every BYU analyst. They're kind of supposed to. The host of Locked On Big 12 was supposed to as well. I lose nothing by picking BYU. However, it felt like after the defensive performance that the Cougars had last week, that with Jay Hill's acumen could be bottled up and recreated on a Friday night in Dallas. SMU had won 9 straight at home, averaging over 50 points in those games. And what BYU did is walk into their house and keep them from scoring a touchdown. Now, if I can be very honest with you, SMU, from a defensive standpoint, probably should have won this game. SMU's defense did enough to win this game. Had you told me pregame BYU will be held to 18 points, well, yeah. I mean, it's Rhett Lashley's offense. They're going to score. Jay Hill, a pedestal. That man, can you please, if you put a movie in front of me, if you put a Life Touch, is that a thing? A movie in front of me from Life Touch. I don't even know if that's a real thing. And are they the ones who do the yearbook pictures? Maybe I'm off there. And you put it in front of me and you say, this guy had a heart attack. And then 8 days later, is in the booth calling plays. I'm going to go, no, I don't believe that. We can make the plot a little more believable. It's what happened in real life. Jay Hill, the defensive coordinator for BYU, had a heart attack. Like, his heart was not pumping blood a week ago. And that man just kept SMU out of the end zone the entire night at their home stadium. Chills thinking about that. And then across the way, Aaron Roderick, what are you doing? 18 points against an SMU defense that allowed 20 plus against Nevada is not going to cut it. I'm not here to talk about the negatives. I'm not here to say that Jake Retzlaff didn't have a great game either. I could definitely rag on him. The interceptions were not good. The fumble was not good. He has been a turnover machine when he's played. Did he deserve to get benched? No. And maybe that sounds kind of weird to you. I don't think that he was put in very fair situations by his offensive coordinator. And guess what? You want to know something crazy? The same thing was happening last year. This is nothing new. I was shocked. I did a whole show in the offseason about how Aaron Roderick, A-Rod as he's called, should be fired. And I think tonight you saw an example of why that's maybe still the case. Last week, we weren't talking about that. Last week, we were saying they beat a very good FCS team, and they did. However, this week, one of my major takeaways is that Aaron Roderick was not it. And guess who was? Jay Hill. Jay Hill was a stunning addition to BYU when he came in, and has continued to be, and has elevated his program to become a defensive juggernaut through 2 games. That's a small sample size. I cannot give you that BYU is going to be a defensive juggernaut in the Big 12, but what we've gotten in these last 2 games has been, I think stunning is the right word to use. Retzlaff, 200 yards, a touchdown, a couple interceptions. Running the football, I don't, is it going to be by committee again? I'm just confused. SMU was held to 261 yards at their own place. SMU had 144 pass yards. People were talking preseason about Preston Stone possibly being in the Heisman conversation. He was 2 for 4 for 4 yards and had to be benched for a kid that none of us had ever heard of, Kevin Jennings, who was 15 for 32. A 3-man rush from BYU could get to the quarterback. The defense of the Cougars up front was impeccable. It was almost like, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the way Kalani Sitake reacted to this game, like, he's pissed. Everybody's kind of collectively pissed that the offense looked the way that it did. And you should be. But still, as 12. If you're like, can I say something? I'm sorry. I know offensive coordinators personally. Plenty of them in college football are friends with their families. They're real people. Like A-Rod's a real person. But I can't, at some point, you have to look around the room and say, are we choir boys? Are we nice guys? Are we being kind to the human beings in the room? Or are we winning football games? Like, I've got to shoot you straight. The offense for BYU did not win this game. And I did not think that Jake Retzloff, I thought he did enough. Retzloff did enough, obviously, to get the W. But the defense is what did it. And if the offense was remotely competent, BYU puts up 30 against SMU. And they should have done that. And you know what the best part of this whole thing is? I'm yelling at you now, passionately. Here's the best part of this whole thing. As upset as I am with the BYU offense, they won the game. They were 12-point underdogs. That moved to like 10, bounced back to 12, and BYU got it done. There's not enough good I can say about Jay Hill, and there's not enough that I can tell you about A-Rod that I didn't already say last season that we're still dealing with here. The couple fourth down calls, that first fourth down call, like what? How many times on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, can we just run it up the middle before you go, they're going to run it up the middle again? Not to say it was a complete failure for that side of the ball and BYU. But it was not it is not going to let you compete in the Big 12. However, it's going to let you compete against an ACC school. Can we, I'm looking at the crowd on TV and it's just BYU East. Like they have the missionaries, the elders and sisters come out at halftime and perform. And you're going, that's like half the stadium's on the field right now. That is really sad for the ACC. I can only imagine Brett Yormark is there going, glad I didn't add these cats. And the ACC is looking at SMU going, what are you doing? You're paying us to be here. Can you try not to embarrass us? They would consider a loss to BYU to be an embarrassment. But this was a culture win for the Cougars. This was everybody kind of point at the offensive coordinator and laugh and say, we're going to win in spite of you. Because, buddy, what I saw from the tight ends to the receivers to the heart and effort of Jake Retzloff, who I cannot fault for playing so hard. What I saw was a team that won the game in spite of a human being, that human being being A-Rod. And Satake is going to have to answer for that. Kalani is going to have to answer for that. A-Rod's going to have to answer for that. And Jay Hill needs just a huge, not promotion's the wrong word, because you can't be like, can we go from defensive coordinator to mega defensive coordinator? He needs a huge bonus just based on this game, last week's game. Now BYU gets Wyoming that Arizona State blew the doors off of, and all of a sudden, you're 3 games away from a bowl game. And I don't think that gives immunity to your offensive coordinator. This was cool, man. A funky, wacky game where you're just hoping that BYU's defense holds on, and they do. I am so very impressed with what BYU put on the field tonight in Dallas. And as somebody who picked BYU to win, hoping, they had 17 first downs, 2 for 13 on third downs. What? 134 rushing yards, 202 passing yards. What? That's not great. 3 turnovers, but I'll be darned if the defense wasn't spectacular. And if this wasn't a gritty, hard-nosed win. And when you're if there's one thing I would rather have you win this game. Texas Tech. The defense didn't win the game for Texas Tech against Abilene Christian. The offense obviously did, 52-51. BYU's defense won this game. And if that is a tell on your team, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. If your defense is what wins you games, you're going to be scary in the Big 12 Conference this season. I still think BYU goes to a bowl game despite a very tough schedule. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel helped me out a lot because I am in Iowa. I'm in Iowa. And in Iowa, you can put $75 in the BYU money line. But cash it. Hit. Yep. Count it. Thank you, BYU Cougars. That's like $275 in yours truly's pocket at FanDuel.com. That's exactly what I wanted, buddy. Thank you. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is where you can go right now. They have a special for all our listeners this weekend. FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app lets you use it for FanDuel's double your winnings for all Sunday on September 8th. Pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting this Friday, actually. So it's live. View your account page now to learn more about your boost. FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. Get a boost with FanDuel.com and $5 bet now through September 22nd. FanDuel customers get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. No better time to join FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, than right now. BYU wins. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all. This has been and always will be. Come back on Sunday. We break down the entire weekend of the Big 12. Sunday on Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.